Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Wednesday, August 2nd, 2023. Now, if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my $19 rundown best bet, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. Alrighty, let's get into it. Here are the games for Wednesday in Major League Baseball. First up, it's the Los Angeles Angels taking on the Atlanta Braves. We're going to see a 12:20 Eastern start time in this one. We see a few early afternoon games for Wednesday. Lucas Giolito and Yonny Chirinos are your projected starters. You know, Lucas Giolito has struggled on the road this year. He struggled when he was pitching on the road as a member of the White Sox. And his first start as an Angel, he pitched on the road at Toronto. The Angels lost that game 4-1. Giolito gave up a couple of home runs. It really wasn't a terrible outing. 5 1/3 innings, 3 runs, 5 strikeouts, but still a loss nonetheless. And Giolito's got that ERA above 5 now on the road in 63 2/3 innings. I still think he's the better option here in this game, though, in terms of the starting pitching matchup, as Yonny Chirinos is also, he struggled his first start as a Brave, 4 earned runs allowed, 6 base hits, and only 3 2/3 innings. The Braves have great numbers against righties overall this season and in the last 30 days, but so do the Angels in the last month. Los Angeles top 15 in team OPS against righties, top 10 in isolated power. I'm going to take the 1.5 runs here with the Angels. I don't love this Angels bullpen, but I think Giolito does enough here early in this game to keep his team in it. I think the offense backs him up. Give me the Angels plus those 1.5 runs. Next up, we see the Detroit Tigers taking on the Pittsburgh Pirates. We're going to see Osvaldo Bido and Eduardo Rodriguez on the mound in this one. Now, Bido had a better month of July than he did in the month of June. He had a 4.09 ERA in July in 11 innings of work, despite facing some tough lineups along the way. The Dodgers, the Diamondbacks, the Giants, and Angels, pretty much all winning teams there. And now you're facing the Detroit Tigers, who have struggled against righties this season. Detroit in the last month is 24th in baseball in isolated power against righties, 28th in team OPS with a 24.2% strikeout rate as a team. Bido doesn't usually pitch too deep into ball games anymore, but I think he gives the Pirates 3 to 4 decent innings. Eduardo Rodriguez also has a pretty beneficial matchup, facing a Pirates lineup that's struggling against lefties in the last month and pretty much overall this season as well. When you look at the numbers, Pittsburgh's 28th in team OPS, 30th in isolated power, 25.6% strikeout rate against lefties in the month of July. I think Rodriguez pitches well. I think Bido keeps the Pirates in. I'm going to take the under in the first 5 innings between Detroit and Pittsburgh. Next up, we see the Washington Nationals taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Wade Miley and Mackenzie Gore are your starters. Pair of lefties in this matchup. Two teams that are hitting lefties very well, in the last month or so, in the month of July, where they were both top 10 in baseball in OPS and isolated power. The Nationals having a very low strikeout rate against lefties. I think that's beneficial facing Wade Miley, who doesn't really miss a lot of bats to begin with. And Miley, his first start in a little under a month after an injury. So, not really the best spot, in my opinion, for Wade Miley. Mackenzie Gore's last 10 innings of work, 3 runs allowed, 10 strikeouts. He's in a little bit better form himself, and he's got a good xFIP below 4 this season. I think Gore's the better option on the mound, to be honest with you, even despite the ERAs. They may say the other story, but I think Gore has the higher upside in his game. He's pitched pretty well at Nationals Park this season. I'm going to take the Washington Nationals on the money line in the first 5 innings and the full game as well. Next up, we go to Coors Field as the Padres take on the Rockies. Joe Musgrove and Kyle Freeland are your starters. We saw Kyle Freeland in his last game against the A's, not his best work. He went 4 innings, giving up 9 base hits and 5 total runs in an 8-5 Oakland A's win. We know one of the worst teams in baseball. And the Rockies lost all 3 of Kyle Freeland's starts in the month of July. I think they lose this game as well. The Padres, pretty good numbers against lefties this season. In the last month, they're top 15 in both team OPS and isolated power. Joe Musgrove, decent numbers at Coors Field in his career. 18 innings of work, a 4.5 ERA, not too shabby at Coors. I'm going to take the San Diego Padres here on the run line, laying those 1.5 runs. Next up, we go to Houston as the Guardians take on the Astros. No official starter for the Astros right now, but we should see Tanner Bybee going for Cleveland. Bybee's been pitching well at Progressive Field and on the road. He is winning a lot of games for Cleveland. He's personally 7-2 this season, but when you look at the last few starts in the month of July, he was the Guardians were 4-1 in his 5 outings. Before that, in June, they were 3-2. So I like the way Bybee's pitching. He's striking out batters. He's going deeper into ball games, at least 6 innings in each of his last 3 starts. I'm going to take a shot here with the Cleveland Guardians plus the 1.5 runs and a sprinkle on the money line as well. In our next game, it's the Boston Red Sox taking on the Seattle Mariners. Cutter Crawford and Logan Gilbert are your starters. Logan Gilbert has struggled, believe it or not, at home this season. Even though T-Mobile Park is considered a very pitcher-friendly ballpark, Gilbert's got that 4.67 ERA and 52 innings at home giving up a good amount of sharp contact as well. And you're facing a Red Sox team that in the last month is top 10 in baseball in OPS and isolated power as a team against righties with a low strikeout rate to go with it. Don't love the matchup here for Gilbert, and Cutter Crawford's pitching really well on the road. His last 3 road starts giving up 2 earned runs or fewer in all those games, and all 3 of those games were Red Sox wins. Give me the Boston Red Sox in the first 5 innings and the full game as well on the money line. Next up, we see the Philadelphia Phillies taking on the Miami Marlins. Braxton Garrett and Zach Wheeler are your starters. And we saw both of these starting pitchers face the opposition not too long ago. Braxton Garrett against the Phillies on July 8th. He went 5 innings, 3 runs. Not a terrible start. Not an amazing outing. The Marlins went on to win that game 5-3, the final score. Zach Wheeler against Miami back on July 7th. The Phillies won that game 4-3. Wheeler went 6 innings, 3 runs, so a quality start. 7 strikeouts in the end. I think both starting pitchers could pitch well in this game. We saw Garrett with a nice bounce-back outing. His last start against Detroit, he went 6 innings, no earned runs, 6 strikeouts, and a 6-5 Marlins win. The big thing for me is when you look at the Phillies bullpen, in the last month, it's been good in the ERA department at 2.85, but the expected numbers aren't great. The Phillies have the 6th highest Sierra in the bullpen in the last month. I do expect some regression going forward for this Phillies pen. The Marlins bullpen's been pretty sturdy lately. They added at the trade deadline. I like the Marlins in this matchup on the money line at home. Next up, we have a great pitching matchup between the Tampa Bay Rays and the New York Yankees. Shane McClanahan and Garrett Cole are your starters. Both of these guys having great seasons overall, but I do think Garrett Cole is in better form. When you look at McClanahan, his last couple of outings, not really going deep into ball games, only 9 innings his last 2 starts combined, giving up 8 earned runs and a home run with 13 base hits as well. I do think the Yankees, even though this team has struggled mightily offensively overall this year, their numbers against lefties aren't too bad in the last month. And Garrett Cole, it's tough to go against him right now. His last 4 starts, 3 earned runs or fewer in all those games. Not giving up a lot of walks. His control's been there. The strikeout numbers are there. I think he wins this game for the Yankees. I'm going to take the Yankees on the money line at home. Next up, another AL East battle between the Orioles and the Blue Jays. Grayson Rodriguez and Yusei Kikuchi are your starters. Now, we still see the ERA for Grayson Rodriguez above 6 right now, but his last few starts, we're starting to see that upside and why he was one of the more highly touted prospects in baseball. His last game against the Yankees, 6 1/3 innings, no runs, and a 1-0 Orioles win. Another game against an AL East opponent, the previous start against the Rays, 5 2/3 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts, and a 6-5 Orioles win. So he's starting to pitch well, and he's pitching well in the division, which is the most important. We saw him face these Blue Jays back on May 20th, and overall around that time period, Grayson Rodriguez was struggling, but in that outing, it was one of his best. He went 5 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts in a 6-5 Orioles victory. I think he wins another game here for Baltimore. I like the way he's pitching right now. Yusei Kikuchi's pitched well, and himself for the Blue Jays, especially at Rogers Center, but he's facing an Orioles team that's hitting lefties very well in the last month. 3rd in baseball and isolated power, so the power numbers are there. Pretty low strikeout rate and high walk rate to go with it. I think the Orioles win this game behind Rodriguez. Give me the O's on the money line on the road at a really good price. Minnesota Twins taking on the St. Louis Cardinals. Joe Ryan going for Minnesota, no official starter for the Cardinals. I'm going to go with the over in this game. It's not my favorite on the board, but Joe Ryan really struggling, giving up a lot of sharp contact. In the month of July, he gave up 8 home runs in 25 1/3 innings. He had an ERA above 6 in those innings. So yes, his strikeout numbers were really good. His control wasn't too bad, but giving up a lot of extra base hits. The Cardinals have pretty good numbers against righties in the last month. I think they'll be able to get to Ryan, but I don't love this Cardinals pitching staff, their bullpen, the starting pitching rotation. So give me the over here in Minnesota, St. Louis. Next up, we see the Chicago White Sox taking on the Texas Rangers. No official starter for either team in this one, so we're going to have to take a Ruffalo here, take a pass on this game. We know both of these teams were very busy at the trade deadline, particularly in their starting rotations. White Sox were sellers, the Rangers were buyers. So, really don't love this game right now. We'll see what happens on, Wednesday afternoon as we get closer to game time, but right now, just taking a Ruffalo. Next up, it's the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the San Francisco Giants. No official starter for Arizona. We should see Logan Webb going for the Giants. Logan Webb had a nice start in his last game against the Red Sox. Even though it wasn't good enough for a win, it was still 7 1/3 innings of 3-run ball, so a quality start there. 16-7 ground ball to fly ball ratio, exactly what you want to see from a ground ball specialist like Webb. He's got good strikeout numbers at home this season with a 2.2 ERA and 69 2/3 innings. In Arizona, their bullpen has not been great in the last month, an ERA at 6.04 and the league's 5th highest Sierra. Give me the San Francisco Giants on the money line in this one. Next up, we go to Wrigley as the Cubs take on the Reds. We're going to see Brandon Williamson and Drew Smyly on the mound. I'm not in love with either of these starting pitching options in this game. Williamson, a 4.48 ERA overall, but not great expected numbers. And Drew Smyly, he pitched really well at the beginning of the season, almost had a perfect game against the Dodgers, but struggled in the month of June and July, and overall now has a 4.5 ERA. In a game like this, I'm just going to take the team that's playing at home, has the better numbers offensively against lefties in the last month, and has the better bullpen, and that's the Chicago Cubs. Isolated power-wise, the Cubs have a much better numbers than the Reds do in the last 30 days. A much lower strikeout rate against lefties. The bullpen has better expected numbers and the better ERA in the last month. So I'm going to take the Chicago Cubs here on the money line at Wrigley Field. Next up, we see the New York Mets taking on the Kansas City Royals with Kodai Senga and Alec Marsh on the mound. Not my favorite game on the board. I just don't see a lot of value in this one with the Mets as big favorites. I do think the Mets win this game and cover the run line in the end, but a lot of the Mets were traded at the trade deadline. The team is going to be looking a little bit different in the second half of the season. Senga's been pitching well. I think he pitches well in this game, but the question for me is the offense going to be able to back him up? I think they will be. They've had good numbers against righties in the last month. Marsh has struggled this season with a 7.04 ERA, an 0-5 record, giving up a lot of home runs, a lot of sharp contact, and his control is also starting to struggle quite a bit. Give me the New York Mets here in a lean on the run line, laying those 1.5 runs, but not a really good price here. And the final game for Wednesday's card in Major League Baseball, it's the Oakland Athletics taking on the Los Angeles Dodgers. Hogan Harris and Tony Gonsolin are your projected starters for now, but there is no official lineup for this game, so we could see a pitching change. We can expect the Dodgers are going to be big favorites here, probably minus 250 or maybe even minus 300. In that case, I think there could be some value with the A's on the run line, maybe the alternate run line getting 2.5 runs with Oakland because Tony Gonsolin has not pitched well this season as of late or at Dodger Stadium, a 4.91 ERA at Dodger Stadium this year. His last start against the Blue Jays, 5 earned runs allowed. Before that, 4 earned against the Rangers. He's given up 4 or more runs in 4 of his last 5 starts. His control's been off. He's given up a lot of home runs. Hogan Harris has been pitching a little bit better as of late. The Dodgers have great numbers against lefties overall this year, but not the best in the last month or so. I'm going to take the 2.5 runs here with the Oakland Athletics in this one. And that's it. Those are the games for Wednesday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. Again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.